I pass the floor to Mehrdad Nغزگوی, who will be talking about pathways of development for derivational affixes in New Persian.
Hello, everybody. I am honored to be here, and I'm very grateful for the great management of this wonderful Congress, and especially I thank Oleg for presiding over my session. Okay. My current talk covers the description of 4 distinct attested pathways that lead to affix formation in New Persian. I begin by examining how content word evolve into derivational affixes. This is the primary and the most frequent pathway observed in many languages of the world. So I talk about the most, first I talk about the most frequent pathway that is attested in many languages of the world you see from content word to derivational affix. Then I briefly talk about the theoretical perspective accounting for this path of change. And next, I explore 3 other less attested pathways that are found in the history of New Persian that lead to derivational affix. For example, from grammatical words to derivational affix, from clitic to derivational affix, and finally from inflectional affix to derivational affix. At the end, I show the relevance of degree of grammaticality with derivational affix formation and mechanism underlying it. The emergence, you know that the emergence of inflectional affixes through process of grammaticalization as well as the path of development for inflections have been widely acknowledged and established within the linguistic literature. However, the development of derivational affixes lacks a comparable level of consensus, possibly due to involvement of distinct mechanisms and the occasional occurrence of reverse paths during their formation. So this is the path that's found in many languages of the world. So I call it a primary path of development. And the context in which this happens is in compound word. As a constituent of a series of compounds, a word possesses the potential to acquire a fresh and abstract meaning, ultimately culminating in the evolution of a derivational affix. For example, I have 2 examples here. For example, in Middle Persian, we have the sag that is shortened to des. As a full form, it means form or appearance, and it becomes shortened to des. For example, in mehrdad, and the meaning of des changes to like. For example, mehrdad means like a man, or you have tagdes, which means curve in Middle Persian. Tag means branch, and tagdis in New Persian, or sardis in New Persian, a bust. Another example is gonag. Gonag, which as an independent word means color. In the compounds, you have the form gund, which is shortened form, which means sometimes. For example, in Middle Persian, you have zargoni, being like gold, or anargon, like pomegranate, golgon, which in New Persian is pronounced as golgun. Or we have many examples. For example, in gandom gun, lightly tanned, somewhat dark. And you can find many examples in the literature. For example, I have cited one work by Winfried Lehmann, 1994, who talks about English examples that have undergone the same path of development. So this shows that compounding is more basic than derivation. historically, as far as the history of languages is concerned. This path of change is explained by different scholars adhering to different theoretical perspectives. For example, Lightfoot notes that the development of derivational affixes display characteristics of both grammaticalization and lexicalization. Norde, 2009, proposes the idea to consider the derivational affix as a result of grammaticalization. Honig and Bowie, 2040, see it as a case of constructionalization. Still other scholars such as Himmelman, 2004, have characterized the process of derivational affix formation as sui generis or unique and distinct from other linguistic processes. Okay. My evidence comes from the text in New Persian that include works belonging to different historical stages of this period, only New Persian. I do not talk about Middle Persian or Old Persian. And another important evidence comes from Dadagan, which is a corpus developed by Academy of Persian Language and Literature. It includes 1,493 texts ranging from oldest surviving New Persian texts to the contemporary texts. Okay, now I come to the other less attested pathways that happen in New Persian. Of course, I don't elaborate on the mechanisms of change, bridging context, and the way they are grammaticalized. We see only the end product of this change. The second pathway that occurs in Persian is changing of grammatical word to derivational affix. I'm happy that Matthew talked about it, and it's completely in line with what I have here. You have, for example, the preposition fara in early New Persian. فرا شبانی رسیدند و یکی رمه گوسپند دیدند. فرا شبانی to shepherd. It is used as preposition. And or in the second example, فرا وی گویی. To him, say to him. Or هرچه فرا زبانش آید گوید. فرا زبانش. Here you see it's evident that it is used as preposition. But nowadays, you have a change that you see the decline of the use of it as preposition, and it is only used as preverb. For example, in early New Persian, you have fara raftan, which means escape. Or in modern Persian, you have fara gereftan, which means learn, or fara khan, calling or summoning. Same patterns of change repeated itself for some other preposition like furu, dar, and bar. For andar and bar, it's interesting to know that you have a coexistence, still a coexistence of usage between the prepositional use and also using as a preverb. Okay, so let's see what kind of in this second pass you see the loss of grammatical properties. So it's evidently is a case of degrammaticalization. Norde talks about three important degrammaticalization types. For example, degrammation is a change whereby a function word is reanalyzed as a content item, often as a result of pragmatic inferencing. De-inflectionalization, which occurs when an inflectional affix becomes lens-bound, or debounding, which is shift from bound morpheme to free morpheme. So what is the mechanism behind this second type of derivational affix formation? The change of a function word to a bound derivational affix does not exactly match any of the above types of Norde's classification as far as the loss of grammatical meaning of a function word is concerned. It has some similarity with degrammation. However, the item under study becomes more bound, which is reminiscent of what happens in grammaticalization. The third pass is from clitic to derivational affix, so I must omit some parts. If you look at the list of pronominal clitics in Persian, me, teshe, montanshan, I only talk about me, that has lost some of its properties to refer to person and number, and also it loses its ability to refer. Okay, I only read the examples because of the shortness of time. You have a change of she to marginal or inflectional critic. I don't talk about it because of time. So I go to the last one. You have we have some example of she that are used in as a derivational affix in New Persian. For example, مگه همش میتونه کتاب دعا بخونه. همش here means always. Is it possible for him to read the book of prayer all the time? Or تازش مگه میاد. تازش, here you have adjective that ash is attached to it, and you have the word moreover. You have a change. Actually, ash here function as a derivational affix. We have more example. خداییش, in fact, دست بالاش, at most. So the question is, which type of degrammaticalization? The change from a clitic to a derivational affix is undoubtedly a type of degrammaticalization process during which grammatical properties are lost. However, this type does not fit any of the three types of degrammaticalization as noted by Norde. And the last pass of change is change from inflectional affix to derivational affix. Here I talk about particles be and na, that in their formation, in New Persian, you have some characteristics of clitics. They show some characteristics of clitics. And in modern Persian, they are used only as stress-bearing inflectional suffixes that, for example, be is a mood marker. It shows subjunctive and imperative marker, and na is a plurative marker that shows the actually is a negative marker. I only go to the examples that I have. In modern Persian, you see some of them in the same context have changed into derivational affix. The difference is that in the derivational usage, they no longer bear stress. For example, you use them as imperative bepa, which means wash out. But bepa, someone who spies on somebody or someone who guides. Or bokhor, which means to eat. Eat is imperative, bokhor, and bokhor, someone who eats much. Or boro, which means it means go. And as derivational use, you use it as boro, something that goes fast. Okay. You have the same kind of change for na, negative marker. For example, napas, which means do not cook, and napas. That takes a long time to be cooked. Natars, do not be scared, versus natars. You see that all of them in the derivational use make adjectives. Courageous. Or nakhor, imperative use, do not eat, and nakhor, stingy. Okay? So, do the changes of be and na match the definition of de-inflectionalization as given by Norde? We see that they do not, be and ne in their derivational usages are not list bound. However, they lose their properties at mood marker and plurative marker respectively. Therefore, they can be considered as a case of degrammaticalization without necessarily being cases of de-inflectionalizations as defined by Norde. So you have the line of grammaticality that it is cited by many scholars. You have content item on the left with the least grammatical properties, and you have inflectional affixes on the right with the most grammatical properties. If you look at the four different points on the line, you see that we have all the examples of the change into derivational affix. I have talked about all of the examples in this talk, and you see this change. Let us go to the conclusion. The formation of derivational affixes in language is not monolithically tied to a specific or single path of change. The higher frequency of content words changing into derivational affixes can be attributed to their lower degree of grammaticality. Both grammaticalization and degrammaticaalizations are involved in changing linguistic items with varying degrees of grammaticality into derivational affixes, cross-linguistically acquiring additional grammatical properties through grammaticalizations appear to be more natural than losing them through degrammaticaalizations, which characterizes the latter three paths discussed in this presentation. The instances of degrammaticaalization illustrated in this talk do not qualify as any of the main types of degrammaticaalizations identified by Norder 2008. Thank you for your attention.
Any questions? May I maybe have one brief question, maybe even two if we have enough time. So I wonder about ash, the marker, because first of all, as you know, of course, its status is a bit controversial, right? Because, for example, Boret Sanverian, she believes that this is an affix rather than a clitic, even in its standard possessive function. Paulette Sanverian in Paris, yeah. So she has a paper where she argues it's an affix, not a clitic, even though it's complex usage. But I just wanted to say that this function which you are presenting, of course, maybe in modern Persian, is not as developed, but in many other languages, Armenian, Uralic, other languages of North Eurasia, it's very typical for a possessive third-person singular to develop into a discourse particle like also or even. So this is kind of not exactly grammaticalization, but it could be the other way around. It actually degrammaticalizes in a certain sense, because it used to be possessive, but it becomes close-level adjective. So it's not clear whether this is grammaticalization or something opposite to grammaticalization.
Talk about the one you mentioned that is used as even. Yeah, I have the examples here. Bibis and Roberts talk about this. They say that if a clitic loses its potential to refer, they call the marginal clitic. And in the case of she that is used as even, the meaning of it is a marginal clitic, as defined by Bibis and Roberts. I have the examples here. I didn't read them. Even مهندساش بیکارن. Even the engineers are unemployed. Or مگه همین حالاش کسی قدرتش رو داشت. همین حالاش means that even now.
Very lexicalized.
But you can see that you can see it attached to the different words to the end result is even. If you so it's a grammatical meaning, I think.
I think in Tat, for example, in Tat of Dagestan, in Mitagi, Jalgan, the ish is an adjective clitic. So the ish is used in the function of also. So I think this is the final end of this development. It has no possessive function. It's also only used as also. So like mardish, it's mardham. It's the same as ham in Persian, but it's used ish. So maybe it's also from this ash, which became like this. Yeah. Any more questions? Yeah, please.
I found the one with negation also functioning as creating adjectival modifiers. One of your examples was using na, and when it's down, also uses an adjective. That I found very intriguing, because others, I think that one could possibly see the direction of semantic change. So how do we rule out in this case that there is a homophonous derivational affix Because negation being used as an adjectival modifier, I don't see the grammaticalization decline.
In the history of New Persian, you can't find it. Up to now, I have not found them, for example, in early New Persian, and it suddenly pops out in modern Persian, and it is the same morpheme in the same context is used. Its usage only is solely devoted to, as I said, to present stem. So how can you say that is homophone?
I mean, that there are actually two homophonous items.
Yes, they are homophone, but you are talking about etymology, I think. You think that they are etymologically different. I don't know. I cannot prove it to say yes. No.
Well, how do we rule it out?
Okay. No idea.
That's a very big question, I guess, and how to rule out homophony. Yeah, even if etymologically they are related, they could have split synchronically. So that's an interesting question. Any more questions? Yes, please.
Do you connect sh in the meaning also and even with the third person marker, third person singular? Did I understand correctly?
Here I have we have Mohandes in the foregoing example. She uses its person, number, and referential property.
But it seems to me that sh in this function is not to be separated from z in the same function, because it is a ch historically, and these can be two different paths of development. One of voicing, the usual one, and one is the affricatization, so to say. And such a way is known already by Horn. There are examples of development ch to sh in New Persian. So it seems to me it's simpler. Chi, historically chi or ich, and then z.
You mean that comes from question? What you chi?
No.
I'm historical in old Persian languages. I only talked about.
Manes, I also. Oz, or something like this.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a very valuable observation, because it also raises a question, like, even if they're historically different things, they might synchronically, for Persian speakers, they might be still the same thing. Because you see that for a speaker of Persian, it's ash in both cases. So that they could have merged together in the modern language. Yeah, any more questions? If no, then let us thank the speaker again for enlightening.